And with that, let's go ahead and welcome Teresa to the screen. And Teresa, it's great to have you tonight.
Hi, thanks for inviting me into your home. I'm glad you came to my studio. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the board members that work on Florida Watercolor, because without you guys, our group is nothing. So I appreciate all the work that you do for us. I'm excited about coming to Florida Watercolor to do a workshop. I'm excited to do a demo for you tonight. So the big thing is if you have questions, ask them out. There's a chat box at the bottom. Go in and chat, put in your questions, because I want your questions. There's never a dumb question, because if you're thinking it, so is somebody else. So just, get the questions out there, because I like knowing that there's other people out there. And we're going to get started here. We're going to talk about my process. I started with this process because how many of us, when we looked at the white of the paper, went, I don't know what to do. So it's nice. I started noticing I would be painting over old paintings. And I thought, well, why don't I make my painting not precious anymore? So I came up with this process of making marks and just having fun. And I never worry about where I'm going to go. I never have a plan. There are people that's going to ask, well, where do you come up with your ideas? So what I do is I work in my sketchbook, because Picasso said, inspiration finds you working. So you're either going to have to be painting or sketching in your sketchbook. The sketchbook can be your most valuable friend. I mean, because it's your playground. Nobody even has to look in there. You just need to go with it, go in there and play, just, get down there, put some ideas down. So when I talk about your sketchbooks, I'm going to show you quickly. So I have sketchbooks, and I'll go in and play like with flowers or these. I mean, these are just sketches. Now, I never, ever take these into my art room to work from. Everything is, like from memory. But like I said, this is where you can play and come up with ideas and get familiar with your subjects. So if you don't have a sketchbook practice, make it part of what you do, because it really, really makes a difference. And, you can't get in and paint every day, but you can sit while you're having your coffee and sketch and stuff like that. So I'm a big person on making sure that you have that you sketch, because it's good practice. Now we're going to talk about the surfaces. One of my favorite surface is the aquaboard. It is so awesome to work on. Now, why do I want to work on aquaboard? Because aquaboard will let me glaze over and over. It will remove. I can take, paint away. I can, it's like an Etch-a-Sketch. I can absolutely put things down and go in and wash it all off if I don't like it. So I love that, matter of fact. And then I love, when you get it in a floater frame, it actually ends up getting cheaper when you don't have to mat and frame your work. You can put it in a floater frame, or you buy a cradle board, so it becomes cheaper. Now, if you notice, I'm taking and I'm wetting this down. The reason why I'm doing that is because it's clay, and there's a lot of air bubbles in there that you put the water down so that they can, release. Now, if you were here, you'd be able to see it kind of bubbling up a little bit. If you forget to do this, not to worry. It's just going to add some texture. Eventually, they'll work their way out. So what I work with is I love the water-soluble art graphic stick and Sumi ink. These are my two favorite of my mark makers. And you are allowed to use this. I did check with because our prospectus said graphic, graphite wasn't allowed, but this is water soluble. So they told me that this was okay. And all I do is I just kind of go in and just start scribbling. I mean, I can do like that if I want. Because the nice thing is I can wet it and get rid of it. If I haven't dug it in too far, I can completely erase it. So that's, That's what I like. The other thing I like is the Sumi ink. Now, Sumi ink is water soluble. It's what they use for Chinese brush painting. What I like about this, there's a lot of inks out there on the market. Not all of them are removable. I can put down ink, and if I don't like where it's at, or I decide later on, I can get rid of it. But as you notice, I'm just putting this stuff down. And I'm not worrying about where I'm putting it at. I'm just coming in. And because it is Sumi ink and stuff, I can get it to move if I want. So I may spend a day just getting a bunch of panels ready to do something. You know, that I took a class once from Marianne Beckwith, and one of the things that she said was that you're only as rich as your starts that you have. And so these are my starts. So I just kind of go in and just play. So that would be like stage one. So let's talk about, this, again, about what with the aqua board, the reason why you would want it. It's absorbent. It's like working on 300-pound paper. And, for me, 300-pound paper just seems a little bit too rich for my blood. You get a lot of control with the color and the luminosity. It's easy to lift. It really is easy to lift. And you can lift back all the way to the white. It takes gouache and acrylics and any of your inks. So whatever you're working with, it's good for that, because some of the inks can go through and not move too much. So it's just really a wonderful surface to work on. And once you start working with it, you'll find, I just absolutely love it. And it comes in all kinds of sizes and shapes. I have worked on 22 by 30s. I think there's 24 by 36. And if you'd like to work larger, you can order it direct from from Ampersand, and they will cut whatever side that you like. So like I said, I just throw down a bunch of stuff. I don't worry about where it's going. I just put it down because I want an energy there. And if I start thinking about what I'm doing, you get rid of that energy. But you can tell by once I put this down, this piece is no longer precious. So I let it dry. The next stage, I haven't gone anywhere. Is I'll come in, after it dries, I'll come in with my watercolor. And I actually, just before we started, I looked down, I realized I hadn't cleaned out my paints. So I ran and cleaned them real quick. So I just go in and I throw down color. Again, I don't worry about what I have. I just throw it down and go for it, because at this stage, it's just nothing. And if I'm doing a lot of these, I may use certain colors. The big thing is you're working on aqua board, so you can get really rich with the pigment. And you can tell I don't worry about how I put it down. I love anything that will give us energy. Sometimes you need to move it. Now, I know somebody's out there going to ask, well, what kind of paints are you using? I use transparent paints at this stage. I like the transparent. My favorite paints are Holbein. Although I do have to say, I've just started playing with some Schminkel granulating paints that I've fallen in love with. So who knows what we'll be doing next with that. But you kind of see I work very limited. But I don't worry about what I'm doing. So you just throw it down. So at this point, like if you're asking about brushes, I liked the Low Cornell, but they're no longer around. King Art is great. But I can tell you right now, you buy the best that you can buy on your budget, and just, there is no magic brush. Your brush comes in, your art comes in the time that you spend working on it. So at this point, like I said, I just throw some stuff down. So do we have any questions at this point? Is anything coming out? Are you guys still out there? So,
No, there was one question about what you were working on because someone came in late and I just typed the answer. So
okay.
we're good right now. And if anybody does have questions, you can type them in the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer. So let us know.
Okay. So, like I said, the big thing is the aquaboard is great. You can work acrylic and watercolor on this. Now they do have a gesso board that I like, but because of space, I end up with too much stuff. I just use aquaboard. So,
Okay, and now we have a question. Do
Okay.
you normally leave a lot of white unpainted at this stage?
Not all the time. And the one that I think I have ready, I didn't leave as much. So, and I can go in and completely cover if I want, because a lot of what I do is I do a lot of subtracting. I like deconstructing. That's the new buzzword for all of us, is to deconstruct. And if you look at like Diebenkorn, he deconstructed a lot. So there's our next stage. Now, talking about sometimes at this point, I will take, and I think I'm going to do it this way. And this is something to think about when you're working on your paintings. I prefer a vertical format. Now, you do know that when you enter a show, horizontal is going to show up better because of the format that it's shown on. So that's always something to keep in mind. But when the judge comes in person, vertical has more impact. And for me, I like the vertical formats. If you see, that's a lot what I work in. I moved and nobody saw it. So anyway, I work with stencils to deconstruct. So sometimes at this stage, I may come in, and these are stencils I made. You can make it with just hard plastic, but I can come in and then sand it down a little bit. So what I do when I go to deconstruct, I may come in at this point and just take away some of it. And I'm not thinking about what it is. Like here, I have a big black thing. So I may push back some of that.
And you're just using a sponge or magic eraser there?
That's a sponge. And you use the natural sponge. And I'm going to pull my water over here because this is very important. When you go to do it, you dip it in and you squeeze it out and make sure there's no water coming off of it. You want it pretty dry. But like I said, you can make these stencils really easy. So there's that, and then you can just sand them a little bit. So at this point, I've deconstructed a little bit. I don't know for sure what I'm going to do. Like I said, I probably, because I worked some with poppies yesterday, that may be what I do. So now I bring out my gouache paint. I work on a butcher tray. And if you notice, oh, nobody sees it because I forget you can't see me at the same time. I don't like to be looked at. So I buy the Holbein gouache. This is my favorite. Winsor Newton makes a set. I get the set of 5 that has the primary cyan, yellow, or magenta with the white and the black. You won't use much of the black. You'll probably end up with a lifetime, 2 or 3 lifetimes of black, because that's more for shades. But I put out the 3 colors. And you have your cyan. And our yellow. Now the gouache, you want to put out some fresh every time, because if you're using good artist grade, you can always reconstitute it. In fact, most of the time I just add it to what I have. I came out with a clean one today so you could see mixing colors better. The other thing that I use is I get the PBO gouache, studio gouache, because the white that comes in here with your tube, it's it's really thick and it really is opaque. But at this tube, if I buy extra, I go through a lot of white. So if I buy this is $15. This is $18. So I buy a set of this to go too. I'm also very frugal. So what I do is I just start coming in, and I typically work with flat brushes or the angle brushes. I love the angle brush. But when I demo, I do more flat brushes because I can control the water more. So I just kind of go in, I don't have a plan. I just kind of have shapes that I want to work with. I'm thinking poppy shapes. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to mix up some color. And because it's kind of a red orange, I'm kind of going with kind of a blue. Now, if you notice, I don't use a lot of water. I'll see if I can get this a little bit closer so that you can see when I get, like when I go to touch it, I just barely touch it because you want it to be fairly thick. So I just kind of go in and I'm just going to take a spot and work around my shape. And I may try and square it up because I may think in a grid. It's the end of the day and I'm tired. Grids are always so easy for me. But I can always change what I'm doing. But as you can see, I don't worry about what's underneath here. I'm just going for my, trying to get a shape out there to work with. Now, one of the things is, whoops, I mixed that too. I didn't want quite that much. Now, as you can see, it's still a little bit opaque. I mean, a little bit transparent. You can see what's underneath. At one point, you'll probably want to make it more opaque because it starts fighting with what you're doing. And I'm just working on that shape. So, you know, when you work in your sketchbooks, you know, have a shape book. You know, if you like flowers, look at flower shapes, see what, you know, what you like. So we're just going to come in maybe. Now, if you see, and it, you know, you're never sure what you're seeing on the screens because nobody's, you know, screens are calibrated. But I just switched color, but it's still in the same value. And those are always things to be thinking about too. Now, I think I want the look of two things there. I painted over, so now I'm going to lift some. I can lift when it dries, or I can come in while it's still kind of wet and lift up that stem that I want to have. So, like I said, I'm just playing with some shapes here. I may come in and do, I think I'm going to take a little bit of this out. And the reason is I kind of want it to continue across, but I am going to change up the color and maybe even the value some. And I'm getting it more opaque. But you see, I kind of work from the same puddles and everything. We have any questions at this point? Everybody's.
I mean, I've answered the questions because people were asking what you already had said. So we're good right now. No open questions.
And if you notice, I don't draw. I was one of those when I was in kindergarten. They told me not to come outside of the line. So if I draw, I don't come outside of that line. Now, that being said, do what you need to do. If you need to draw, you draw the stuff in there. But what I love about the opaque paint is you end up getting things down, and you can change the color. With watercolor, you can only go over it so many times before you end up kind of muddy. But I can change the colors if I don't like what I put down, so I can just kind of work with it. Now over here, I got some blue and some orange. I can actually come in with my green. And I'm just telling you some of the things that I'm thinking about. I can get this coming across, but just because I got the opaque there doesn't mean that I can't put another flower shape over the top of it and have it be part of this process. So I'm just coming down, coming back in. You see where I'm working with this limited palette here, even with my opaque, it's easy to get things to relate to each other. And that's the whole key with all of this is, not throwing too many colors at it. Now, what I might do at this point, I think I'll bring that in a little bit. There's a big change there, and I want it to transition into the other. So I'll probably come in right about there with my sponge, very little water. So, what I'm all about is just trying. I love the unexpected. And I think that's a lot of what happens here is you end up with some unexpected here, that nothing's planned. Everything just kind of happens. Now, I've got some wet stuff there. I can take my Inktense pencils and I can take sandpaper, and where it's kind of wet, I can sand and get a little bit of texture. Let's see if I can hold that up closer to the camera so that you can kind of see. So if I want more texture, I'll just put some in a different spot so that you can see it happening. But you can tell I never worry about what's down there because everything is, that was not so good. Everything just comes into play here. It's all haphazard, but at the end we pull it all together. And that's when you're painting is about relationships, and with relationships you're always having to change at the last minute. Those of you that have been married for years, our husbands are not the same, or wives, as they were when we first married. So you have to make adjustments. And that's what painting is all about, making those adjustments. So see, hopefully you can see the texture a little bit better because you're using the Inktense, which is a water-soluble pencil with ink. So I'm just gonna, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was waiting to ask you a question. We've got two questions. One is, how is the clay board compared to aqua board? Can you do the same techniques on clay board?
You can now with the clay board. It's a little bit, it's not, I don't think it's as absorbent, but it does have, some. I haven't played much with the clay board. Aqua board's my favorite. And like I said, the gesso board for the acrylics, I like to put gesso over the top of it besides what comes with it. So, it's one of those that, they're both archival, but it's still, I don't know, I just go more with the aqua board. It's what I like, and I kind of stay with that.
Gotcha.
But it'd be interesting if somebody's used it, what you think of it. So
true. The other question is, what kind of plastic is used for the stencil and how is it made, please?
Okay, I use a stencil cutter, and this, if you have old x-rays.
I got a bunch of those hanging around.
Well, if you
Oh
have
my,
any of those.
you do.
I do. I don't throw anything out. This actually is in the folders, that you buy that have binders in, notebook binders. This is just a heavy plastic in between. And the little stencil cutter, I should have brought it out. It's just a little iron thing that you cut the shapes out that you want. So
is it like a heated thing? Like you heat
it's
it
a
up?
heated thing. It's like a,
okay.
I'm trying, it's not even close. I don't think that I can
That's
grab
okay.
it.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just a little thing. It's got a point on it. It heats up. You have to be careful. You can burn yourself, but you can cut that out. And sometimes you end up with a little bit of knobs and you just sand that down. But you want something fairly, if you think about the thickness of an X-ray, they're the same. So it's a great way to do your stencils to get it out. And that way you can come up with all kinds of different stencils. Now, as I was looking at this, I start to see more flowers. I think I want this brought out. But see how I can, because this is kind of dry somewhat here, but I can get back to what's underneath there. So I've got another one. And what happens is you start with these, they start speaking to my lines underneath. And that's what you want, is you want everything to have a friend there. You want them to be able to talk to somebody else. So we're just going to come in. Now I got this a little bit too wet, but I'm going to bring this over this way. And I have grayed it down a little bit more, but it's in a light value. And because I'm thinking poppies, I just love that for a center of a poppy. So I just have to give you a shape. So the whole thing is, like I said, I don't worry about whether it's right or not. I just come in and then I play. Because I've already told you this isn't real. So I play, when you look at my work, I'm playing transparent against opaque. I'm playing spatial games because you're not real sure of the space that I'm in. But see how now you start to maybe get the idea of a flower there, and I can come in and take my watercolor. Now, if I fall, it's because I put everything here at my feet. So I can come in and help right here and add more paint. So just because I didn't have down the pigment that I wanted, see how it starts to feel a little bit more poppy-like? So I just come back and forth, and I'm always moving and trying to do things a little bit different. I think we're going to come in, but I always work from the little, I don't go far from my little thing there. I just stay working with, and that's kind of an oil painter's idea, is, they work from the grays. So and I think I'm just going to go ahead and just put a whole, and you notice I go to the cheaper stuff more than I do the expensive stuff. So one of the things you want to watch is not to go over it too many times with too much water. I had too much water, so it's lifting up there. So I'm going to come back in, and if I need to dry out some of it, I can pull from the ferrule some of the moisture. But see how I can, so you want to go over it once and try not to go over it twice. Now it's wet up underneath there, so.
Okay, we got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
One is, what orange are you using?
That's vermilion. I love, love, love vermilion.
Yeah, I do too.
It's an expensive tube, but
Yeah.
it's so worth it.
Especially if it's one of your favorites.
Yeah.
Okay. And somebody said you must have had those floral shapes in mind when you started.
Well, like I said, those that were here before, I work with my, I was thinking floral because I've got to tell you where I might be coming from, but I never know how they're going to go down. This one just spoke to me. I mean, it was there. And it's like, okay, I can make it into the poppy that I want, but my sketchbook is my playground. All of these shapes are in my head, whether I did the bird. Remember my birds back here? I'm going to switch cameras real quick. These birds are done the same way. It's just the shape. So I come in and I tell it, but if I haven't practiced in my sketchbook, then I don't have a shape to work with. Your sketchbook, you just draw, you put shapes down, have a shape journal. That is so, so important. You just really need to do, to work with shapes, because just because on this one piece here that I saw the poppy, if I didn't have that shape in my head, I wouldn't have seen it. And the other thing is, like here, I forced it to be a poppy, but it wasn't there before. This one had more of it there. So yeah, some of it's in my head because tonight I got to have a plan. But when I come in to paint, I never have a plan. I just start throwing things down and try to figure out where I want to go from there. So, you have to be able to play. And there was a quote, let me see if I can find my paper, that I just found today. The creation of something new is not accomplished by intellect, but by the play instinct. So if you play, is that too bright? Does that still work?
That's okay now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was starting to get dark here. I couldn't see. You need to play. It's in playing that we're able to do stuff. So I'm going to come back in here and try to push back some of that orange. But anyway, these shapes come because I've played with them for a long time. And I'm going to lift and see if I can get back to that orange underneath. So so do you see how you can just lift? Now, when you're new to this, you're probably going to, I'm going to take that off there. Look at how beautiful that is. You would want to let it dry somewhat and then try to remove it. But I've been working with gouache for a long time, so.
Teresa, did you say you have that palette just of gouache when you were talking before? Is that one palette just gouache?
This is just gouache. That's okay. The big thing. If you are a transparent watercolorist, do not put your gouache on your palette with your paint. I don't care how careful you are, you will contaminate your paint, and you don't want to do that. So I work on the butcher plates with this. I do have trays that have, because I never get rid of this. I just keep adding to it. I'm very frugal. I can get fresher color this way, but I can end up with some beautiful grays the other way. So, you're going to learn to play with what you want. And as you can tell, line is important to me. I can bring back those shapes. So we're going to come down in this area here. I do think I want this to come that way. But see how you start getting that rhythm, and and playing and stuff. And like I said, if you decide you don't like it, you can come back in and change everything. Now, the other thing I want you to be aware of that I've started noticing when I play is see how you get this kind of more, you can really say flower, flower, flower. And then down here, like I see a really abstracted large poppy, I can make it more abstract to realism. You can start playing some of those games. So always look for the different games that, you might want to play. But, just be open to, when I paint plein air, people will walk by and you can see them sitting there going, well, what's she painting? Because I use it for inspiration. But once I start painting, I pay attention to what's happening on the paper. And it may not look anything like what you see there. I'm also thinking now, these are all kind of in the same shapes or sizes. So I think I'm going to come in and go bigger in my thought. We'll put a little bit of black in. See, like I said, just to gray it down some more. But see, if I even just kind of blend that out, it changes color, but the value is the same. So be aware of that stuff. What are you doing with the values?
Okay, so we're being asked, do you use the same brushes in watercolor and then into the gouache? Does it contaminate things?
I use the same. If you're real, you do have to be careful when you go back. And I can tell you, there is more, particles are bigger in your brushes. So your brushes may wear out sooner with the gouache. But when you go back and forth, do be careful, because if you don't get it rinsed out well, it's going to contaminate. So you do have to be careful, but you got a better shot of doing it, keeping it uncontaminated by keeping it separate, if you switch brushes out. But I'm not one of those. How many have 2 things of water and they rinse their brushes in one and get water from the other? I don't do that. I believe that when the water starts smelling, it's time to change the water. So I'm not.
And then someone else is also asking if you can use acrylic gouache with the watercolor.
Okay. You can use acrylic gouache, but remember, when you use the acrylic gouache, now it's acrylic. You're not going to be able to, like here, I can come in and remove any of this gouache. You're not going to be able to do that with the acrylic. And I'm one of those, Holbein makes an acrylic gouache. I don't use the Holbein acrylic gouache, and it dawned on me one day, because I have it. It dawned on me the reason why I don't like it is because I like to mix my paint, my acrylic paint, with gesso, and I get that gouache look, and I've got a tooth, because gesso has a beautiful tooth to play with. I don't like that where you can't, do the, now I'm losing my thought, where I don't like the feeling that it gives. I like being able to, I like the textural quality of it, because I really scrub at my acrylics. But see how this is starting to give the idea of maybe a poppy. Now, when we talk about shape, let's talk about shape. I come in here and I'm constantly trying to knit them together. Because like I said, painting is about, relationships. So the more you can get it to come in, the better it is. So I can come up here. And when I come in with another color, I always leave a little bit behind. And my granddaughter just came in. And I know she wants to say hello. So just a sec, and then she's going up to her room. We'll switch it out.
Okay.
This is my baby. So say goodbye. Go to bed. So they like
Okay.
the limelight.
We also, yeah. What size brush are you using? Someone is asking.
I use a 1-inch brush. I don't believe in these tiny little brushes. I like huge brushes. If I'm doing a round, I like the big Goliathes or something like that. Anything smaller than a 10 is for makeup, and a 1-inch is, you don't need all those brushes. Work as big as you can with the brush. You get better shapes. Learn to, I don't know if you're watching, when I'm doing this, I'm turning my wrist, I'm moving things around. So be aware of how you apply everything. Now, as I look at this, see how I've got a straight line here. Now I've got an option. I can bring a line down like the stem is coming in, or I can bring it out. I think this is a little too straight for me, so I'm going to bring some of this back. And I've got to get some more paper towels. Now, if you go to lift, use the Kleenexes are really soft, paper towels. Now, if you have paper towels and it's got a pattern on it, you may leave a pattern behind. So I do think I'm going to bring a stem in here. The other thing I like to do, and it's hard when you're demoing, is I like to get back away from what I'm doing so I can really see it. So I'm going to come back up here. I started working with some color. Do you see how I leave a little bit behind? Whoops, I went too much into the white. I got too far away from my pile there. Now it's going to match this green that I have over there. But see how you end up with, just some lovely little things happening that you wouldn't have thought about.
By the way, did you color coordinate your shirt with your painting? Because when we're looking down on your arm, it's like the same color as that vermilion.
I didn't realize that, but that's good. I'll have to remember that for the next time. Match your painting. So I'm just coming in and kind of removing some, but at this point, and I've got this corner here that I've done nothing with, but I love the shape of this. And do you see now, one of the mistakes that I see so many people make is they come in and they don't, they're doing flowers, or even if you're doing a still life, you want to paint, we got a flower here, we have a flower here. I want them to be all one shape. I want it to interact. I want to be a shape maker and not a thing maker. And that's what you have to do, is you got to get rid of the thinginess of what it is. You want these exciting shapes. And look at how there's just a rhythm and stuff that comes with this, and this coming like that. I really, really love this. Now, I'll probably come in and put some more paint, in to probably define more of it. And over here, maybe to define more of some of this stuff. I kind of like this line coming across here. And I can get rid of it later. Now, see, it may be too much, but I can always get rid of it by coming back in with paint over the top of it. So I'm just going to, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and want a little bit of, now you see when I get all three of the colors together, I can get down to some grays. And the nice thing is you can judge your value by looking at the tray. You can see the value. Now, there are people out there that will add white gouache to their watercolors. And that's a way that you can start to begin with. But I can tell you the problem, if you decide that you like gouache, invest in this tiny little set, either the Winsor Newton or the Holbein. Invest in it, because when your watercolor, when the light hits the watercolor, it is the light reflecting off of the paper that we're seeing. When it's gouache, it's reflecting off the particles of the gouache, the opaque. So I'm gonna let that dry a little bit, because I'm probably, in fact, I may come in, because I'm always drawing back in sometimes. And this is the ink tints. I might even come in sometimes with this and just scribble across there again, because like I said, I want some of the unexpected happening. So by doing this, now I can come in and maybe I'll see if I can come into somewhat of an opaque orange in through here. So I'm always playing a what if game, and that's what you want to do is, and if you ask it, yes, I'll do it. You know, it's what if I do this? So I'm not sure I like the color that I came up with, but I can let it dry and work with it. I think I want some darker stuff back behind it. So what I do is I just kind of keep playing with this stuff. Because remember, everything will change by what you put around it. That's why when you're painting and you want somebody to go, well, what all should I do? You can only do one step at a time. You have to come in and see how it changes. But see, I like that dark against that. I don't know what colors is showing up there on your screens. That's always the hard part, but I like the value of that against that. I might switch that up a little bit there. Remember, if you have things exiting the paper on an upward swing, it has a smile to it. So I can come in now with my watercolors. And I'm going to, with neutral tint, give myself somewhat of a center there. Now, if you notice, I didn't make a complete center. I don't have anything right here. You know, I didn't go like that for my center. Leave some air and stuff in there so that, you know, you can get in and out. Because when you put a shape like that down, you trap us in that shape. I can kind of wander in and out there. Now I can come in with some of the pencils, and I don't know where, oh, here they are. Right in there, I can add a little bit of color to it, so it just adds something different. One of the things too that you need to realize, you know, we get to seeing all these demos and we're thinking everything has to happen in an hour or two, or, you know, realistically, if something is good, it's going to take some time to have it come in. Most paintings don't paint, you know, the showstoppers aren't going to be done in an hour. Now I'm using some of the crayon.
Are those watercolor crayons?
These are watercolor crayons from Cheap Joe's. They're the American Journey.
And is there a limit to the number of layers that you add?
No. Now, if you're working on paper, all of this can be done on paper. Aquaboard is just my surface. But if you're adding a lot on paper, because it's a chalk-like substance that makes it opaque, you're going to want to make sure it's stable or it could crack. But I put my whole thought process, I am not a traditionalist. You do what you need to get it done. You don't worry you know, you don't worry about, did I use this or whatever. You just do it till you get done. And if you get, like I said, if it gets really too bad, with Aquaboard, I just wash it off. It's no big deal. I've got a full sheet over here that I started. I'm not sure it's going to be able to work, so I'm going to take it to the bathroom sink and wash it off. So I'm just kind of coming in. But you see how now you can start to maybe see some of that idea of poppy happening. But, you know, play with how you move all that. I really love, now see, this is where Sumi ink is so wonderful, because look at how it just moved. It, you know, it has that look to it. I might take and put a little bit of color down there. So we kind of have this coming over it. So we may come to shape some. And, you know, I don't worry about if it's really poppy shapes, because I've already told you this is not real. And that's, you know, the cubists didn't worry about it. I do think I want this to come maybe off this way. So do you see how I just kind of move back through? Did you have another question?
Teresa, can you turn the light down just a little bit? It's a little bit too bright, I think.
Too bright? Okay.
Yeah, it's washing out some of your colors.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So I'll work in the dark.
It's blurry right now, though. Is there? It got really blurry right now.
Yeah, it's it looks like it's out of focus.
Yeah, is your camera out of focus just a tad?
Is that better?
Keep going just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's now it's too. It looks like it's the colors are washed out.
There.
Okay, let me turn the other light off. I turn the other light
There.
off.
Yeah.
Okay. Now is it blurry again?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was perfect before you adjusted the lighting.
Well, let me so I think I'd adjust for the lights, and that's too bright. Let me try another light here real quick. Does that help? That's not so much on it.
It's washed out a little bit, and it's still just a tad blurry.
Okay. Let me turn out the others.
Okay.
How's that?
It got blurry again. It was in focus a second ago.
Move your water can to the right. I think it's focusing on your.
Oh.
I don't know if that's it or not. We'll just make do with what we got. It's
Yeah, that's the downside of when the lighting changes, because I do all my Zoom stuff. Let me see if I put a white over here. Did that help it any?
No, can we maybe try to focus the camera just a little bit more?
you can't adjust the focus, can you, on your camera?
No, it's just a webcam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I can hold it up. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that helps us see it periodically if you could do that, because I think people were wishing for that anyway, to be able to see certain parts of it.
I brought it down closer. Did that help? And we can come in.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I'm So is that a better focus?
It's just a tad blurry, but I think we can still see what's going on.
Okay.
Go with it.
Okay. So I brought the camera down. So I'm just kind of coming in. And I've never had that before because I did the Palm Beach thing and they didn't have that issue. So anyway, I'm going to bring this over. And I want a little bit of color there. And I kind of like the energies there. So I may just kind of hit it some so it feels like the same sort of brushwork. So the other thing I like to do is, even though the poppies don't grow that way, is look at it. This is all undescribed, so I need to take care of that. I like how that's coming across there. And I work more pieces there. I'm going to try deconstructing somewhat right in through here. And if you notice, like when I go to use my stencils, I try to get things that are varied. You know, you want to have things a little bit off. Huh? So, and I may even just right up in here.
Daddy, I'll give Susie a ride. I'll ride with you. Yes, sir.
Ron, I think somebody isn't muted.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to come back in once that dries and probably put some more color down. Come back to this. Up in here, I need to describe more. So, and I don't like the thing that you have to watch. See that straight line across there? And because of all those years of dot to dot, we will draw a straight line across there. So I'm going to come in and change that. But see how the shape gets more interesting when I have it speaking to the area back behind it. And I think I'm actually going to lift a little bit more there so that this starts to make a shape here. And there's some of that Sumi ink that I can push back. Oh, I like to see that flower starting to come in. So, you know, you just kind of deconstruct. I'm going to bring some more dark value in. I got it here. So I think I'll come over. I like this as one shape. I think we're going to go ahead and bring this over a little bit more. But look at how beautiful that shape starts to be. And so even though you have the opaque there, it becomes part of that shape. So you've got opaque, you've got transparent, you've got some layers there.
So you're not covering up everything that went before too when
No.
you're doing this negative painting.
You know, I think about, I love history. I love seeing, you know, people's faces and seeing how we've lived life on our faces. I like it in our paintings. I want history back behind. And so by leaving it behind, look at, and what happens, this glows, but now do you see the glow that's happening right here with that piece? Because you put that back behind it. If I got rid of that, we'd miss out on that glow between these two. So, that's just a lot of it is you just, you put some down and some of it you will get rid of. Some of it you'll save. But I'm actually bringing this shape further down so that it will start talking. It starts connecting. I'm starting to put some of that abstract underpainting underneath. And if you look, I'm always thinking about what's down here. So I can actually make a big cup thing of this flower back behind. But you see how I'm always looking for ways to interlock. And we may bring this down, have got it to here. I'm trying to decide whether I want it there. I do want to bring it over here. So I like playing angles. And if you look at like Wayne Thibault, he was so good at doing diagonals from corner to corner. So you don't have to worry about that. Play the angles because that will keep us moving. But see, this shape now is coming this way and this stuff is dancing that way. So, you just play with some of it and kind of just keep going for it. Now I'm going to bring this dark in another spot. And I have to tell you guys, I'm now in the dark. So it's now I really do have to pay attention to the values. I got to get some blue paint out. So is everybody excited about the FWS convention? I mean, September, we're looking at it coming. It's going to be here before we know it. My workshop there is going to be on Thursday and Friday. And I think it's the 27th, 28th.
Yes,
Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, and we're going to be working, if you've taken from me before, we're going to be working with putting down bold, fearless marks. I've got new exercises for that. We're going to be working with some color theory because we need to know what games we're playing. And that's some of when people are working on their art. They're not really paying attention to the game that they want to talk about. So, there'll be that. I'm also doing a new workshop for Cheap Joes online called Get Out of the Rut and Still Like an Artist. I'm really excited about. So, but you see how I just look at how things have changed. Now this starts talking to this. But as I put this in, I'm leaving some stuff back behind here. So I'm looking on both sides of this shape. So I kind of like that. I'm going to bring it up close so that you can start to see some of the stuff that's happening. So I like that. I'm not sure I like that, but I like the light to dark. So I think we're going to come in and we may just even go. See, I'm just coming in with, some other color and I may ghost across there so I can still see what's down underneath there. Yeah, I like that a little better. Right in here, I'm going to give us a center. So anyway, in October, I'll be doing that Still Like an Artist workshop for Cheap Joes. And then in November, I'll be doing a workshop for Gold Coast Watercolor Society. And then I'll be doing the In a Rut for Bonita Springs in December. So
Sounds like you have a busy schedule.
I do. But you know, it's exciting. And I can tell you, when we talk about how did I get here, FWS gave this to me. If you think about volunteering for FWS, get involved, because this is where you come in and you learn so much from each other. You make contacts. I mean, this is the greatest organization to belong to. I came on as a P1 when I was coming up the ranks to be president. And I cannot tell you the value. I love coming to our conventions and seen people that I only see once a year. You know, it's just so exciting. And we've got to keep our organization strong by our volunteers. And I can tell you, it will come back tenfold to you with this, you know, being a part of FWS and getting out there and spreading the word of watercolor, because, you know, watercolor is still kind of grandma's thing, you know, and we've got to let them know it's not. We can make exciting work, you know.
Hey, watch what you're saying.
But no, I mean, but really, yeah, that's why we put Aquaboard out there, because we come out from underneath the glass. But I mean, our organization is so wonderful. Just get involved with it. I can't tell you how important Florida watercolor is. And every one of these people that, I mean, and they hear from me, you know, because I've always got my opinions, but, you know, they're doing the work for us to give us a place to exhibit our work and to have fun and come together and have a convention and have, you know, a trade show.
Well, so you know, we're lucky because not every state has a watercolor society and like ours, and not most of them don't put on a convention like ours. I think our convention is one of the biggest in the country. So if you don't take advantage of that, you're really not getting your money's worth for your membership dollars. So if you can come to convention, please do. And take a workshop, because I've met so many friends through workshops. I've learned so much. Unfortunately, being president and on the board, I've got to be working during convention, but you know, that's okay too, because somebody's got to do it. Anyway, we have a couple of questions.
Let's have the questions.
Do you use bottled Sumi ink? And if so, what brand is your favorite?
My favorite is this green. It's the name is, it's the green bottle.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. This one's my favorite, but I can tell you at Gold Coast has a tag sale every year. And I buy up every Sumi ink that comes through because I go through a lot of it. So, but I mean, it's this, and you know, be careful, try the different inks. Sumi ink is now saying that it isn't water soluble, that it dries permanent, but it doesn't. I mean, I haven't run across that yet, but there is inks out there that, like the Holbein ink is permanent. When it dries, it's not coming up. It's an acrylic or something. So be careful of that, because my whole process is just working and trying to figure out what we want to do, you know, that sort of thing. To, you know, take it away, put it in, because I don't want everything to stay there. Now, what I would do at a point like this, I would take it and stand it up and look at it, go have a cup of coffee, get another one and work on. One of the things that we do is we don't work long, you know, we work and we work trying to bring it to a finish, and we don't let paint do what paint's going to do. I don't care whether you're working in watercolor or gouache or acrylic, it changes the first 24 hours. It will be so different in the morning. And you've also got to get your thought process, you know, back up to what you're doing. So I'm going to show you, because I think, are we about done on time? Is that where we're at, Jackie? Or
we are at 8:10. I've got a few more questions.
Okay, let's do the questions.
Yeah, let's see. How do you seal your finished piece, and how do you frame them?
Okay, I put them in floater frames. I seal it with the Minwax polyacrylic. You can use Dorland wax. You can use varnishes over them. you just need something to finish it. Now I find, because I use the water soluble graphite and stuff, I have to do something and spray it first to make it a fixity. You can use the varnish, and I'm trying to think, I haven't read all of our prospectus. I think varnishes are okay now, right? With Florida watercolor.
Yes.
On the, okay. Holbein makes a varnish that I've used. You can use the polyacrylic, which is just an acrylic by Minwax. I like the spray Minwax. I spray it 3 or 4 times and I'm done with it. So, and you get at Home Depot. Like I said, I'm real frugal. So some of this stuff, but you can use the Dorland wax. I like that. But the problem with that is it eventually, you got to keep buffing it out. Now, this is one, like I said, I let paint finish. This is one that I did yesterday, and it's at the problem is with this, I lowered it down. You can't see it all at one time. So we're going to switch cameras. Hold on. We're going to redo this. Okay, now I do have to turn the lights on. Up, too bright. Bright light, bright light. Yeah, that's good. It's not too bad. So this, let me get rid of, got it. So this one is in the percolating stage.
I love that description.
So, but like I said, first of all, I work small. When I have small here, this is bigger. 1620 is what I prefer to, 16 by 20 is the least amount I prefer. I love full sheets. But when I work these smaller ones for Zoom stuff, I tchotchke them up. I don't know what it is, but you can tell this has got, this has got some possibilities, but I got to bring things in together. It's all too piecey. But see how and this is always my problem because I love pattern and rhythm. This ended up being one whole piece, but it was yesterday, all of these, it was of all these different pieces here. I'll take this one off. And hopefully it won't all come flying at me. But see, I need to get back and look at it. But you can see I've got a piece across here. I may go ahead and bring this down or bring these colors up into there. So I have to start figuring out how am I going to put these pieces together, because it is about relationships. It's about puzzles, putting puzzles together and talking to your painting. Like through this whole thing, I tried to give you my thought process of what I'm thinking as I'm doing things. But like we can come in right now. I'm going to switch this out again. Whoops, I went to the wrong place. Okay, see how this, and I'm going to turn it upside down because it doesn't seem as washed. It's not as washed out here. Is it still pretty washed out?
It's a little, but the focus is better. So let's leave it at that.
Let's leave it. This right here, I've either got to bring this up or this down. See how this is like, we got this piece, we got that piece. And as I see it, my value needs probably a little bit deeper there. But that's the thing, is if you can't get back away from your work and look at it in a different aspect, you can't really judge, what's happening. So we're going to come in, put out some more paint. I got blue.
And is this aquaboard, did you say this wasn't 16 by 20? This is
no, because it doesn't fit into the format. And now that I've lowered it.
So it's 11 by 14.
Yeah. It's like a 14 by 18.
Gotcha.
16 by 20 is the smallest I like to work, but I have a full sheet right over there that I'm working on. So, you just have to, I don't know what it is when I work on quarter sheet paper. I end up with so many tiny pieces. I don't know what that, that says about me, but. So see how I leave some of that behind? I don't get rid of all of it. And I'm going to actually come all the way. Some of that I get rid of, some of it I keep.
Maybe move your painting up just a little bit because we're not,
that way. There. Okay. And I'm working it upside down, which is always a good thing to do because it gives you a look at it from a different perspective. Anytime that you can throw it in differently, it just helps to see it different. So I need just a little bit more water, come back in. But the main thing I want you guys to realize, we go see these people and we think, oh my God, look at what they paint in an hour. That, that isn't the stuff is going to take time. And it's going to go through a lot of changes. Just allow it to change, be open to some of the changes. So I'm going to bring that. And here I can tell I want to. So I'm thinking about the way the brushwork is put down. So I'm just pushing some of that back so we can. Get some movement there. But see, I'm painting right over some of that gouache. But you see how I move my brush around? That's all the stuff that, you've got to think about that you're doing. So I'm going to come back in here with more of the pure blue. And the other thing that you always have to look for is when you're seeing a lot of stuff left, the pencil mark underneath, it can become confusing. So I need to make it opaque enough that it pushes it back. You don't see it. Boy, it got quiet there. Everybody's still out there?
We're still here.
So the main thing is let paint do what paint's going to do. And take the time to talk to your painting. Because your painting will tell you what it needs if you just give it time. So see where it is starting to become less confusing.
It's looking really good.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I put it up behind me so I could look at it. Typically I put it across the room because, you're on top of it and we never get away from our work enough. But like this one was probably the one that was back behind me. The other poppy one was painted in just like a couple hours. And then there was like the rest of the day figuring out what do I need to do? What is it, is the value need to be adjusted here? Do I need to do that? And I didn't, so if you take the time to let the work tell you what it needs and give the paint time enough, because it looks better today than it did yesterday. Because paint changes so much. And I just want this darker.
And gouache dries a little differently, doesn't it? Does it dry differently on, even more so on the aqua board?
Gouache dries, if it's dark, it's going to dry lighter. If it's, see how light this got? Remember how dark it was?
Yes.
Gouache, if it's dark, will dry lighter. If it's light, it will dry darker. So that's why a lot of times you have to make a value change, because it's changing the way it, it dries. And we end up in the middle range. So all I'm doing is I had this dark and I liked the dark that was coming in there, and I'm just trying to push it darker because that's what I liked. And see how it punches it up once I start getting that. And it gives you an opportunity. I just put another stem in there. So, and sometimes I have to get rid of them because I love the stems and what they do. But I think I may go ahead. And one of the things that I noticed that I love, see, I'll show you when we turn back on the other camera, is I'm going to bring this diagonal across here. So there's my diagonal from the top. But I'm going to have it come across. And I know they tell you don't put a triangle there. And I may change that. It may be a little bit too much. I may go. But if I do this, then you get movement going like that. And I can change my mind if I decide that I don't like it. Okay, so what I want to do here, so I have a transition. And typically you'd let it dry in between. I'm going to deconstruct. So now that triangle isn't bothersome. So, it's just kind of playing with values, playing with edge quality, working, a bunch of different ways. But see how just this, look at how I can come in, but I'm not bothered by that line anymore. And I get this direction coming down. I probably need something a lot lighter. And I think I'm going to really lighten this up here. And that is the nice thing about working in somewhat darkness, is you see the values a little bit better.
Maybe you've invented something new.
Paint in the dark. Come to my house and we'll have a dark night painting. So the main thing is, guys, mark your calendars for September. I cannot tell you how much fun the convention is. And we all get to hang out. The friendships that you make there are unbelievable.
We're coming up on 8:25.
Okay.
So I don't know when you would like to, I don't want to cut you off. And I know we could go on watching this for a while, but you might be getting tired too.
Well,
so.
I'm getting tired and I need to let the paint do what the paint's going to do. Right now, and realistically, you guys are stronger, stuff than I'm made of, because when I sit and watch people paint, you give me 20 minutes, I'm out of there. So if you've stayed this long, I appreciate it. I'm going to switch cameras here. Like I said, you can come up with some excitement. You can play like this. One little piece has to be, toned down some, but it's starting to come together. I just still have too many pieces and I've got to somehow work with it and simplify. I think I like chaos, but but like I said, I'll live with it and kind of just keep working. I hope to see everybody at the Florida Watercolor Convention, and I really appreciate Florida Watercolor asking me to come and join you guys. And I hope to see everybody at the convention. If there's does anybody have any more questions? Are they?
We have just a couple. Everybody saying thank you for a refreshing approach to creating. Thank you, loved this. Thank you. It looks like you're having fun. We did have somebody ask if they could see your sketchbook again, your shape book.
Yes.
Maybe.
Let me just find them. They're here on the floor.
There you go.
Okay. So when I do all kinds. I take and play with ideas. This is the life of a tree. You start from a seed, you become a tree, a twig, a tree, a swing.
Put the camera on. Put your overhead camera on. There you go.
I forget.
We're still seeing you.
Yeah, and you don't want to. That's not good.
There
so
we
anyway, this I play with shapes. How does it fit in the space? One of the things I do is I have and of course I don't have it here. I cut out mat board that I can make my square, because, and I'm a firm believer on, if you're drawing, even if I'm like I paint to the edge, but I always have to put a mat around it so that you can see the space. You need to see the positive and the negative space. But I just come in here and I play with ideas. I mean, and nobody has to look at any of this. Somebody, like, look at this as an abstracted. Now this is all about line, but I love that right there. And this is just playing with some of these shapes, these poppy shapes. Look at what you can do with a poppy. Look at, and this is a very Asian thought where everything's down in the corner and everything's quiet. I mean, you know, it's just, and like I said, I never take this into my art room to work with it, but it's all muscle memory, I think.
Yeah, I think you're working out your brain.
Huh?
You're working out your brain.
And with this, it's just a drawing. So we're freer to work with some of this. But all of this, when I go to play, I mean, I play with, what if I did divide it almost in half? I've played with my name. How can I make marks with my name? Look at the line. I mean, I love this. It's just, I mean, sometimes I think I really get into just playing, but look at how you can tell I was taking an idea. Same thing, but look at how many different things I did with that idea. And I used the Faber-Castell pens. I don't like pencils because you erase. I'm a firm believer in learning, you know, to make the space work. I think about, Jackie, didn't you go to Russia with me? Didn't we go on a trip to Russia?
That was the first overseas trip I ever took. We went to Russia.
We went to Russia and we went to a concert or something, and I'm sketching in my little sketchbook, and there's a piano, a grand piano in the middle of the stage, and I'm drawing all around it because that piano is not going anywhere. I get ready to draw that, the piano gets pushed away. So I have to learn that moves. I've got to do something with that space. A lot of times when I do cruises, I don't have any in this one. I mean, some of them are good, some of them are bad, but you know, I just play. That's just playing with some shit that.
Yeah, you're playing with,
I just play.
Yeah.
I mean, this is on a cruise and they're doing the salsa, trying to capture them doing the salsa.
That's darling.
People sleeping. They've had lunch, they're sleeping.
Yeah.
You know, it's just at the beach. But you
Boy,
know,
I don't want to go on a cruise with you because I might end up in a sketchbook.
Well, the good thing is nobody would know it was you, because I don't, you know, you don't look like. But I mean, they're at the bar.
Yeah, that's so cute.
So it's just, and I play with the pens. The best thing to do is work in your sketchbook. You can't paint every day, work in your sketchbook. You've got your coffee. Sit and draw the same thing over and over and over again. You know, just create. Don't worry about, I tell all of my class, and I guess I'm going to have to tell you guys too, we're not going to end up in a museum. I know that that's going to shock some of you. And if you do, great. But if you don't have to worry about what anybody else is thinking, you will let yourself go, and what will come out of your hands and your mind will be just unbelievable. And the main thing is have a fun time doing the journey. Just do the journey and you know, have fun with it. So hopefully everybody had a good time. We'll see you at Florida Watercolor. Any more questions?
No, I think we're good. And, you know, I think some of the questions that surfaced, they can see on replay. Ron will have this up in a day or so. Just want to remind everybody that next month we'll be welcoming Donna Morrison for our third Thursday. Oh, and your workshop is now open for registration. And on the 1st, we will be open for convention registration. So just want to remind everybody about that. And those are the workshops. Of course, you're up there. So thanks everybody for coming tonight. Appreciate it. And thank you, Teresa, for your wonderful demo.
Well, thank you for asking me. And thank you everybody for letting me come into your home for an hour and a half and let me talk your ears off. And hopefully, you know, you got the questions. If you need any answers, you can contact me through my website. But, you know, enjoy Florida Watercolor and get out there and get involved, because it is the most fabulous organization ever.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
And thank you, Jackie, and everybody. Okay.
Good night.
Good night.